I've collected quite a few foundations ranging from drugstore to high-end, and some of it has got to go. While some of them are expired or just the wrong shade, there are some foundations that deserve a revisit. So once I've decluttered my collection, let's take a look at some swatches and select a few for a wear test for the next video. I can't wait to share with you my findings. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here are my current favorite foundations that I consider my holy grails. They work well with my combination skin type and skincare. The House Lab Tri-Clone Skin Tech Foundation in the shade 050 Fair Cool is what I consider my perfect shade match. Not only is the color perfect, but it also provides medium coverage that I can build up or stretch out, making this foundation versatile and easy for everyday use. The IT Cosmetics Color Correcting Full Coverage Cream in the shade Fair Ivory is almost a perfect shade match, but it can lean a bit dark. However, if I want full coverage, this delivers. A little goes a long way. I also like that it has SPF and the packaging is travel friendly. Let's swatch the two next to each other. As mentioned before, the IT Cosmetics foundation does run slightly darker than the House Labs foundation, so it may be hard to see, so here's a photo in different lighting to show the difference. These swatches will help guide me with my declutter decision making. Anything obviously expired looking, or if the shade is way off, is going to get cut from my collection. Anything I remember as bad is also not staying. Now that I have my hand swatches prepped, let's start with my drugstore collection. First on the chopping block is the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Skin Tint in the shade 110. I have two of the same shade since one was supposed to replace the other, but I forgot to toss the old one out. Luckily, after a quick smell test, it was easy to figure out which one needed to go. I'm going to keep this because I liked it enough to buy a replacement, but I honestly can't remember how well it performed. The shade is a bit lighter than my usual too, but I like how reflective it is. With its up to 24-hour wear claim, I'm curious to see if it really is a long wear product. Next up is the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation in shades 12 Fair Warm and 22 Light Warm. 12 Fair Warm was too light for me, but the tone was nice. So I bought 22 Light Warm to create a custom shade. Since e.l.f. is a very affordable brand, getting the second shade was no problem at all. These will stay in my collection since I like the option of mixing my own shade. I can use more of the lighter shade in cooler months and more of the warmer shade during the peak of summertime. I also like how the packaging is travel friendly and that it's one of the more affordable foundations from the drugstore. I'm also curious to see if their long-lasting claim really is long-lasting. The Revlon Colorstay Longwear Makeup in the shade 150 Buff also claims to be, well, long-wearing. I had originally purchased this based on online swatches, and a lot of reviews mentioned that it was a very good light olive shade. And since drugstores don't have testers, I took a chance feeling really good about my purchase. But to my disappointment, it was dark. Like, really dark. It looked promising in the bottle, but it was very orangey and a total fail on my part. So because of that, I'm no longer interested in pursuing another color since I've already found some options from the drugstore that were already working for me. So this is getting decluttered. Here we have another e.l.f. product called the Halo Glow Liquid Filter in Zero Fair. And while this product isn't a foundation, I've purchased this to use with my more matte foundations to give it a glowier look. I haven't used it on its own, but I've heard it works that way too. The shade is just a bit light, but it works well for my skin tone. This is staying in my collection since I like the option of adding a dose of glow whenever I feel like it. And I can also use this on my neck and chest for an overall glowier look. The L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation in shade Ivory 10 was a bit of a sleeper hit. When I had purchased this, I was dealing with drier skin, and I didn't want to spend a whole lot at Sephora. I've seen enough reviews to give this a go, and to my delight, this shade was a great match. Now that my skin leans more towards the oilier side, I don't reach for this anymore. Plus, I've had this tube for a while, so I'm sure it's expired by now. this will get decluttered, and unfortunately it has been discontinued, so it's no longer available for repurchase. Here's another L'Oreal product, but this one was one of my most disappointing purchases. There was a period of time where I was a bit obsessed with green color correcting BB creams, and I thought this product would be perfect for me since it also claimed to transform to a universal shade to reduce the look of redness. But that couldn't be farther from the truth, at least with someone who has fair skin. Nothing about this was anti-redness, and it felt like a scam. While it looked promising at first, it quickly transformed to a dark orange color that would be basically impossible to work with. But just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it didn't work for someone else. It just wasn't for me. So this is getting decluttered, but at least I've quenched my curiosity and it's now been demystified. Next is the Maybelline Lifter Sticks Multi-Use Face Stick in the shade 05. Although it never claimed to be a foundation, the words multi-use suggest that it can be used in whatever way it needs to be. While I like the idea of it, the formula is a bit too dry and waxy and doesn't blend into the skin for a seamless finish. It just sits on top of the skin, which emphasizes texture and dry patches. And if I use this as concealer on top of foundation, it would push the foundation around, making a big patchy mess. A lot of my concealers work a lot better than this product, so the Lifter Sticks is a pass for me. Sadly, it's getting decluttered. Last but certainly not least of my drugstore collection is the About Face The Performer Skin Focused Foundation in the shade F2 Olive. Whenever there's a fair olive shade in a foundation, I feel seen and excited. Fair olive shades are rare because olive shades are usually referred to as a medium skin tone shade, so I'm super happy to see fair olive girlies getting the recognition we've been waiting for, especially at a lower price range. I'm not sure how I feel about the doe foot applicator, but I do appreciate that the bottle is plastic, making this a very travel-friendly option. Since this is a recent purchase, it will stay in my collection. I'm excited to use it more and see how well it performs, especially during long hours. Now that we've gone through the drugstore products, let me show you what I'm decluttering and what I'm keeping. Now it's time to dive into my high-end collection. Starting with an easy one, the Urban Decay Stay Naked Weightless Liquid Foundation in the shade 20NN is obviously expired and discontinued, so this is an automatic declutter. Next is a different shade of the IT Cosmetics CC Full Coverage Cream in Fair. The color of the shade is just a touch too dark and orangey for me now, although it may be hard to see on camera. It also passed its expiry date, so it has to go. Moving on to NARS Pure Radiant Tinted Moisturizer in the shade Finland Light 1. I've purchased this product to use as a no makeup product, and I think it's very good. The coverage is light, but it's buildable to an almost medium. It's also really hydrating on the skin, but it doesn't feel greasy at all. If I just want to look as natural as possible, this is what I throw on. And I'm a big fan of the simple packaging. It makes it travel friendly. This is definitely staying in my collection. The Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Skin Tint in the shade 1 is a newer purchase of mine. I bought this because it touted peptides as one of its hero ingredients, and I'm obsessed with peptides, especially in skincare. Since this is a makeup product, I got excited to now be able to infuse a bit of peptides into my makeup routine. But to my surprise, it's a bit too light for me. I mixed this with my NARS Tinted Moisturizer, but I'd like to get the next warm shade up and give it a real go. I'm a big fan of the packaging, and it's a whopping 45 milliliters, which is 15 more than the standard 1 ounce we see in other packaging. This product has a place in my collection, so it's here to stay. Next is the Fenty Beauty Soft Lit Naturally Luminous Longwear Foundation in shades 120 and 130. This is a great foundation, and it's staying in my collection. 130 is a light warm olive shade which runs a bit too dark, which is why I also have 120, which is considered a light neutral. Together they make the perfect shade for me, although my wallet took a bit of a blow with the too high-end foundation purchase. It's a good thing I'm a fan of the formula, which is great for hot and humid weather. It really delivers what it promises. The Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation in the shade 0W is another great formula, and it contains 50 milliliters in a travel-friendly squeeze bottle. The color is a bit too light, and I do intend to get the next shade up eventually. But for now, I use it to lighten my darker foundations since the coverage doesn't dilute the other. This is definitely staying in my collection. The Hourglass Veil Hydrating Skin Tint in the shade 2 was a disappointing product, and I expected more from the brand, given their reputation. I love their holiday palettes, but this skin tint was really mediocre. The coverage was very sheer, and it felt really oily. The shade was too orangey for me, and maybe the next shade down would have worked better, but the formula wasn't anything special, so I basically lost all interest in it. This is getting decluttered. The Dr. Jart Tiger Grass Color Correcting Treatment is a skincare makeup hybrid which promises to neutralize redness and improve the skin's appearance to be vibrant. Since I deal with a lot of redness and wanted a quick and easy product to work with, this sounded like a good choice. I've used it briefly but forgot about it, and I can't remember how I feel about the product. The hand swatch here was enough to convince me to give it another go, so it's staying in my collection for now. I have a feeling it won't wow me, but it might be a good product to wear to the gym. Next is another IT Cosmetics product, but this was a disappointing purchase. Because I love the full coverage cream so much, I've decided to try the nude glowed version of the product, but to my disappointment, the shade Fair Ivory was much darker than the same shade in the full coverage cream. Unfortunately, there isn't a lighter shade in the non-pink family available, so this will sadly get decluttered. Here we have two different shades of the Fenty Beauty Eavesdrop Blur and Smooth Tint Stick in 1 and 2. I love Fenty Beauty, so when this first launched, I had to give it a try. Based on their shade chart, shades 1 and 2 would be my best match. But I've noticed that the shades run a bit more on the pink side. I could get shade number 3, which is a warm neutral, to see if I can make it work, but that seems a bit excessive for now, and the rosiness of number 2 isn't a huge deal. The texture of the product is indeed smooth going on, but I'm not sure if it's blurring. I'm going to keep them in my collection for now and see if it'll work better during the summertime when I'm more flushed and a bit oilier. And finally, we have our last product, the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder in shade 1. I use the translucent version of this product as a primer in the oiliest areas of my T-zone, which is around the corners of my nose, my chin, and in between the brows, and it does a great job of keeping me matte for the majority of the day. So I've decided to try the tinted version to see if I can get away with just dabbing this on and not using any foundation or powder when I'm going to the gym or running quick errands. Shade 1 is slightly lighter than I'd like it to be, which can look a bit patchy, so shade 2 might be something I pursue in the future. But I'm still keeping this in my collection because the shade isn't too far off, and using this as a tinted primer helps me to use less foundation overall. Now that we've gone through all the high-end products, let me show you what I'm decluttering and what I'm keeping. And here are my 5 products I'm going to use during my wear test against my 2 favorite foundations. Let's swatch them on my arm and see them all together. With the swatches complete, here's how I'll go about the wear test. I will not use any primer to see their true longevity, and no concealer to see their true coverage and color. Foundations A or B will be used on one side, and 1 through 5 will be used on the other. Every other product will be the same for consistency's sake. And each wear test will be 8 hours long with a halfway check-in. At the end of each day, I'll give you my thoughts on the test foundation and let you know what I like, what I dislike, and if they're worth it. Now with that settled, let's get testing. Good morning! Today is day 1, and today we're going to be using the IT Cosmetics CC Cream in Fair Ivory and the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Finish Foundation in shades 12 Fair Warm and 22 Light Warm. So before we begin, I'm just going to tuck my hair away from my face. So my face is already washed and prepped with skincare, and I've also added sunscreen on. And as the rules stated, I will not be using any primer and I won't be using any concealer. All right, let's dive right in. So I'm first going in with the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to spread the foundation with a brush first, and then I'd like to go in with a sponge to smooth out the texture. And then I'll just take a clean sponge and I will start with the eyes, just to suck up any excess product that might cause creasing. And then around the corner of my nose as well, because that's where things tend to bunch up and cake up a little bit. And then I like to bounce it all over my face. And then I like to look at my complexion and see if I need a little bit more. I feel like I need just a tiny bit under my chin. Oops. And just on my cheek. And again, like mentioned before, because I'm not using any concealer, I am gonna try to build up the foundation for a fuller coverage, and then I'll go back in with my sponge. So that's the IT Cosmetics side done. And now we're gonna move on to the e.l.f. Soft Glow Satin Foundation. I'm just gonna mix the two colors on the back of my hand, and I am adding just a touch more of the pale shade than the darker shade. So that's what I have. And I guess the only annoying thing about having to mix the shades is that it does create a bit of a variability and room for error, but at least I have the option to customize my shade. So there is a bit of freedom in that. Okay, so I just cleaned off my brush and I am going to start blending this out. And I'm noticing right away that the coverage is actually quite good. Definitely a medium build. I'm just wondering if I can build it up closer to full coverage. And that's the first coating, and it looks pretty good. I'm surprised about the coverage. I thought the coverage was going to be a bit more sheer than the IT Cosmetics, because the IT Cosmetics foundation is full coverage, but the medium coverage for this is pretty good. Okay, so I'm just mixing more on my hand, and I'm gonna try to build it up. Now this side is slightly more yellow on the tone, but that's okay. I think once I add bronzer and blush and powder, it'll sort of even itself out. Okay, so the next step is to powder my face. And I'm going in with the Huda Beauty Pound Cake shade. And I am going in with a puff. I just wiped off whatever was on there before. Okay, I'm just gonna smooth out any creases that I have under here. And then go immediately in with the powder. Okay, so that's one side fully powdered. You can probably tell because it's matte. And I'm just gonna powder the other side. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and do the rest of my makeup off camera, and then I will show you the final results and the time. Okay, so I just finished my makeup and I'll quickly let you know what I've put on. For bronzer, I used the same in shade BR03 Cloudy Brown. For blush, I used the same in PK05 Yogurt Pink and NARS Impassioned. For highlighter on the high points of my face, I used Fenty Beauty's Kilowatt Freestyle Highlighter Duo in Lightning Dust 03 and Fire Crystal 04. And for the inner corner of my eyes, the Rare Beauty Highlighter in Enlighten. For eyeshadow, I used the Natasha Denona My Mini Dream palette, and for mascara, I used both the L'Oreal Telescopic Mascara and the Maybelline Sky High Mascara in both waterproof formulas. And lastly, for lips, I used the Dior Addict Lip Glow in 000 Universal Clear. So I'll be using those products for the next 5 wear tests, including today. Oh, and the time is, let me just brighten up my screen here for you. So the time is 11:57, and it is Saturday, February 7th. And I will check back in with you at approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so I just came on here to show you that I've just put on my glasses. So if at the halfway mark and the 8-hour mark you see glasses pad marks on me, that's pretty normal. Yeah, so today the plan is to, of course, do the wear test all day today. And I'm just about to go visit my parents and spend time with my mom and go see Loki. And then not really sure what else I'm going to be doing today. Hello. Hi. Hi, Goose. Yeah, sweet girl. We'll just see where the day takes us. The weather is pretty gross outside. Maybe I'll go to the gym just to really put this makeup through its course, but we'll see. Usually Saturdays are kind of weird because it can get oddly busy at the gym because that's when everyone has free time, but also if the weather is really crappy, like it is today, it's supposed to be raining a lot, then there won't be a lot of people. Oh, hello again. Hi. We'll see where the day takes us, but I just wanted to come on here and just let you know what I've planned for the day. So yeah, see you in the next scene.
Let's do another love song, baby. We can find a love.
Loki, how's my makeup? How's my makeup, Loki? Oh, you don't care. Okay, so it has been a little bit more than 4 hours. The time is 4:35 p.m. And let's take a look at the makeup. Oh yeah, first I should probably take off my glasses. Aside from the obvious glasses nose pad imprint in my face, everything looks pretty good. I am getting some oils coming through in my T-zone, namely the forehead area, around the nose, and just under my chin. But I'm not seeing any creasing so far. I don't see any smudging around the lashes. And so far the makeup looks really fresh on both sides. So I went over to my parents' place and I asked my mom to see if there's a difference between either sides of my face. Now, I did tell her that I was testing out foundation, but I didn't tell her which one was the high-end side and which one was the drugstore side. She took a closer look, and it took her a minute, but she did decide that this side of my face, which is the IT Cosmetics foundation, to be a little bit smoother than the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation. And she was able to tell because the texture down here was just a little bit bumpier than this side, but she said that she had to really look closely to see the major difference. But if I hadn't asked her to look closely, and if I didn't tell her that I was testing out 2 different foundations, maybe she wouldn't have noticed. But yeah, so this is what it's looking like on hour 4. And it's still looking really fresh. So far so good. So I will check back in with you in the next 4 hours, for a total of 8 hours, and then I will let you know how everything is holding up. But so far, I'm pretty impressed by the e.l.f. side. It is 9:10 p.m. So this makeup has been on for a total of 9 hours. Yeah, so let's just take a look at how the makeup's holding up. So the first thing I'm noticing is that my face is pretty oily, and that's normal, especially since we didn't use any primer or a setting spray. I'm just taking a look at my T-zone because that's usually where my makeup breaks down first. The forehead is actually looking pretty good. Just a little shiny, but I don't see anything breaking down. And my chin is actually looking pretty good too. Some of it has worn off just because I've touched my face. I am noticing just a tiny bit of creasing just around my mouth, and that's pretty normal. I don't see any creasing on this side though, and this is the side where I use the IT Cosmetics CC cream. The makeup is breaking down a little bit around the corners of my nose, but they look exactly the same. Under the eyes, nothing is smudging. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation. And during the past 4 hours, I did some chores around the house. I've eaten dinner, and I've also power cleaned my closet for a couple of hours. So at one point I was definitely working up a bit of a sweat, and I'm impressed that both sides have held up quite nicely. So yeah, if you are ever curious about trying out the Soft Glam Satin Foundation by e.l.f., I highly, highly recommend it. This is such an amazing formula, especially for a drugstore foundation. Now, the only thing that might be an issue or that you might run into is finding the perfect shade match. So I got these 2 colors because they were available on the gondola at my local Walmart. But I did look on the e.l.f. Cosmetics website and also Amazon, and there's actually a fair warm shade that's in between these 2 colors. I believe it's shade number 15, but that shade isn't available anywhere in stores to me. So I think there is a limit as to what the stores can display. Had I known that sooner, I would have gotten that shade instead. But these are so affordable. You can get 2 colors and mix them. This drugstore foundation has stood up well to its higher end opponent, especially in the swear test. So I am super impressed. This is definitely staying in my collection, and I'm so glad that I've purchased it and tried it out. So that's it. That's day 1 complete and in the books. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had so much fun taking you along with me throughout my day. Now we have 4 more days to try on the other 4 foundations, so I can't wait to try those on for you and share you my thoughts. So with that, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you learned something. I hope it was insightful for you, and I can't wait to share with you the coming days that I have. All right, so take care and good night. Bye.
Baby,